They were unbelievable.
Calling to order the March 7th Economic Development Committee meeting. Any courtesy of the floor?
Nope.
No? We only have one item on the agenda. It's a presentation from ArtsQuest.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody's enjoying somewhat of sunshine today. So in the spirit of our first official meeting of 2024, we wanted to start with one of our premier entities within Northampton County. We've been a longtime supporter of ArtsQuest. They're constantly bringing in new activities to promote tourism within the county. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Ms. Cassie Hilgert, President and CEO of ArtsQuest.
Thank you, Tina, and thank you so much for having us here. I know I've had the pleasure of meeting with a number of you. Some of you I'm still waiting to get together with and introduce ourselves, but today I want to do a couple of things like we do every year. We come in front of County Council because we think it's our responsibility for the funding and the support you give us to be able to give back to you and show you what the impact has been in the previous year. So let's do a little refresher on ArtsQuest, who may not be familiar, some of the 2023 grant funding from Northampton County, what happened in 2023 with our ArtsQuest programs, and then we're going to give you a little update on our capital campaign, which the county has generously agreed to fund as well. Always want to start with a big thank you to Northampton County for your continued support for the capital campaign and for helping us to enhance and increase tourism through things like the ice skating rink and some Music Fest enhancements that we had this year and hopefully in years to come. So by the numbers, we're about a $30 million operating budget now, which sounds really exciting, except we had $29 million and $300,000 in expenses last year. So that'll just give you a sense of that $30 million mountain every year we got to climb. We do hire 1,200 artists a year. So when you see a free stage or a free show at Music Fest, every artist is paid. Every Banana Factory artist that teaches classes in the 17 school districts we work with are paid. If we're an arts organization that believes that there is that the arts is a job creator, we have to pay the artists, so we have to show them that there is a way. We're actually now up to about 80 full-time staff and 81 part-time and more than 200 seasonal part-time staff to help run our programming. Of course, at the heart of all this is our volunteers. We were a volunteer-run organization 41 years ago, and today we still have a strong group, including 12 that have been with us all 41 years. Almost 3,000 members, which is really exceptional. 350 corporate sponsors about that area, and we do work with another 190 nonprofit partners. So at things like Music Fest or Reggae Fest or Levitt shows, we offer space for nonprofits to be able to build awareness of their services and programs as well. We do 12 festivals a year, of course, Music Fest being the most well-known, and we're bringing in about 2 million people to the campus for our programs, events, and festivals. And right now, in 2023, we did about 5,300 concerts, events, and classes, and 47% of that was offered free to the public. We've been doing this for 40-some years. Of course, it started with Music Fest, and then we decided to continue the tradition of festivals and the German theme with Chris Kindelmart, which has received accolades over the years. And then we thought, hey, this outdoor festival idea is a great idea, except when it rains and snows and is not wonderful. So let's try to see what we can do with year-round impact. And that's when we opened the Banana Factory back in 1998. And as we were doing that, of course, down the street, we're watching the nation's largest brownfield sitting idle. And we thought, we've got this little experiment of how we can use the arts to bring back a blighted area and encourage investment in and around the Banana Factory. Let's go down the street and take that theory on steroids. So we opened that back in 2011. And of course, we relaunched the first floor of the ArtsQuest Center. We redesigned the whole thing as part of our capital campaign. We relaunched that right in the middle of COVID. I'm not sure how smart that is to open a restaurant in the middle of COVID. But then again, our last two capital campaigns, I think in September of 2008, we launched the Steel Stacks capital campaign right before the collapse of the market. And then we launched our most recent capital campaign in January of 2020. So next time we announce a capital campaign, I encourage you to move all of your investments for the following 3 months into something safer. Whenever we're talking about our programming, we're talking about Bethlehem. So we're obviously talking about Northampton County. And in this era of digital listings and rankings, these are just some of the places where our programming is being included, which is certainly being sent around the world. We've said this before, but our most, I think, honored awards are the two at the bottom. The Rudy Bruner Award for Urban Excellence and the Urban Land Institute. Steel Stacks has won both of those awards, and only 2 other cities in the country have won that, in Boston and San Francisco. So I don't know that many times we've heard the sentence Boston, San Francisco, and Bethlehem all put together, but that's an important thing when you're recruiting developers to an area, when you're recruiting new businesses to an area. They want to know that there's innovation, ingenuity. And I know many of you have heard me say this before, but it bears repeating. Steel Stacks to me is the example of what a public-private partnership can do. There was public sector support for that project from the city to the county to the state to the federal level. That support then encouraged the private sector, and that's exactly what is happening with our capital campaign that we're currently undergoing. So we got some great grant funding from Northampton County in 2023. We were able to replace some LED lights and get electrical upgrades due to some hazardous and failing equipment. LED lights, of course, as you know, is more environmentally sustainable and friendly. We also received a $60,000 grant for Music Fest 2023 so that we can continue to push tourism and overnight stays here during that festival. And then, of course, the Reimagine That Capital campaign. We have a commitment to both the Cultural Center and to the Turning Grind, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Let's look back at what happened. So our attendance record was about 1.719 million, up 9% over the previous year. Music Fest, all-time record-breaking attendance, all-time record-breaking revenue, all-time record-breaking expenses. So everything went up. And as you know, the one thing that did not increase, as it never does year after year, is the price to get in, which remains free. Oktoberfest, we still had good attendance. While we were down a little bit, we had 2 really bad rainy Saturdays, and the 2 Saturdays of of Oktoberfest are what you need to make that festival. So despite that, we were only down 4%. But Chris Kindlemart, I mean, my goodness, we can't make that festival big enough. This is the 3rd year in a row that we've had record attendance of over 117,000. That's up 10% from last year over those 5 weeks. We look at the occupancy in all months, but particularly in August, November, and December. And of course, we're not the only thing happening during those months, and we're very aware of that. But I would argue that Music Fest has a hand in the August occupancy rates, and we do with Christmas, but the entire city markets itself, and there's so much to do. So we are just a part of that. But I think you can see the occupancy rates and what happens with investments in some of those festivals throughout the year. We continue to do new events. The People's Ball are the 2 photos you see there. These literally a fashion show modeled after the Met Gala, which, as everyone knows, you need to be a major star to get into. Taylor Swift goes to that. They spend millions of dollars on their outfits. But there is a People's Ball that happens before that. And it's literally for the people. So they make their own outfits. It is juried by those in the fashion industry. So we've brought that to Bethlehem to do that as well. And then we're doing some concerts on the Grange, as we did last year. We'll do it again this year. And then our new Wine Fest in Market, which happened in February and October, both were sellouts and a great success. And please stop me at any point with any questions. When we talk about the economic impact of our festivals, and our events year-round, our economic impact in '23 was up 8% over '22, so now we're a little over $132 million in economic impact. Some people think sometimes that's money coming into ArtsQuest. That's the exact opposite. It's the money that goes out into the community and the investment that happens because of that programming. We come up with this number from the Americans for the Arts, which has a formula to use between your attendees, what your expenses are, and then they can calculate what your economic impact is. So you can see how that $132 million is broken out over the year. Music Fest still being the gargantuan share of that for about $84 million over 11 days. You see the total full-time equivalent jobs in the community that are also supported by expenditures. So what does that mean? Restaurants hiring extra staff, all the wonderful people in and around Bethlehem that decide to charge $25 for parking in their lawn, all the full-time equivalents that happen there because of the Music Fest programming. So you can see what happens not just at that festival, but in the FTEs for all of our programming throughout the year. Media impressions, so how are we getting seen, who's seeing us, and what kind of impact does that have? And we all know these numbers, how they come up with them. Sure, it's about this. About 3 billion unique views, 9.2 million people reached. That means if we were to buy enough advertising to reach the same eyeballs, you would have to spend about $3 million. And our marketing budget, all of marketing, advertising for Music Fest is under $150,000. So we're able to have great partnerships with people like Service Electric, WFMZ, 6ABC, and then where we get picked up in other news, whether it's in Yahoo Finance or MSN, this is how you start to get a snowball effect of the programming going way beyond what we are able to put out in our own news releases. Social media impact, you see the followers that we have there. With the exception of Twitter, we saw some pretty strong growth across all the platforms that we continue to manage and expand upon. So I'll stop there for a second before I talk about the capital campaign, but any questions about programming, about 2023? Okay, then I'll get into the capital campaign called Reimagine That. There are 6 pillars to this campaign. We're going to focus on the top 2 there, the Cultural Center and the Turn and Grind Shop. I will point out, though, that we have been able to fully fund 2 of the other pillars there, the reserves and the Arts Quest first floor. Reserves are important. When I took this role, we didn't have any reserves at all. We didn't have any safety net whatsoever, and I always complimented Jeff on having an iron stomach because I couldn't work 51 weeks out of the year and hope we had good weather. So we are trying to raise some additional funds from the private sector to shore that up when we have, oh, I don't know, God forbid, a global pandemic. So making great progress there. Our endowment fund, we do have an endowment. We always have. It's just that a lot of people didn't know about it. We're putting it in this capital campaign, but endowment gifts, as you know, are long lead times. These are individuals who talk about gifts in their wills, but we wanted to include it in the campaign. And I will say that we started this campaign with $1 million in our endowment, and we're up over $8 million, which is great progress with COVID interrupting it. So the new Arts Quest Cultural Center, where the Banana Factory will be, will house a number of different things, but want to focus on a few things. A maker space to draw artists and students and entrepreneurs so they can have access to equipment like woodworking, working with metals, getting trained on this, having time to be able to rent this instead of buying all the equipment at home. It'll be not just for the artists in the building, but certainly for anybody in the community. Our educational opportunities, we are going to explode our partnership with the Bethlehem Area School District here with a digital media lab. And this is going to be for high schoolers that pick the communications and media pathway. If they want to go to college to build their portfolio, they will have access to the Banana Factory and all of our programming, all of our artists, and all of our staff to create content for their college application in their high school years. So we're excited about that. And then for the visual arts programming, we're going to be increasing by about 25% the number of artist studios. We'll be able to double the number of students we impact to about 10,000 from about 5,000 now. To show you, this is the back of the building. So to reorient you, this building will run along 3rd Street now. Right now, the Banana Factory runs perpendicular to 3rd Street. We're going to swing that so it covers the entire city block there. That is also a safety thing, because if you've ever gone to the Banana Factory, people use that parking lot like a road, and it is not safe with people unpacking and bringing in art materials and coming out. So turning the orientation of the building also creates safety by putting parking in the back, which is, this is the back of the building as you see it. That 1-story brick building with the modern blast furnaces on the top, that is our expanded glass studio, because we are out of space right now for artists who want to access the glass studio, so we can expand that, but still have the roll-up garage doors so we can open it up and people can watch it. They love to do that now, so we want to expand that opportunity. We will also have rotating public art murals on the outside of the building, so we're hoping to change those about 2 times a year and do call to artists. Again, something else that we fund when artists do this, so paying them for their work. We'll have a small wall. It will not be brick. I just met with the contractors, and apparently that's expensive. So we're going to make that more mural space instead of bricks. So you really get the sense from the outside this is an art building. But the reason the wall is important for us is we want that impediment between the grassy area there, which is outdoor programming space, and kids running into the parking lot. And this way it's just another safety and security update. So first floor, where all the magic's going to happen, you'll see in the bottom there are 2 sort of aqua spaces there. Those are 2 large art galleries. All the way to the left with all the seats there, that's going to be the Valley's first year-round comedy club. That program has been growing for us, and it needs a permanent home. When it's not being used as a comedy club, it's where we're going to house all of our school trips and the kids that we bring through the building today. It'll be flexible space. As you go up into that beige area, that's the maker space I was talking about, and then the green area is the expanded glass studio and observation area. So we want that first floor to be active all the time, every day, all day. As you move upstairs, the green areas are rented to other nonprofits. The beige areas are the artist studios. Both the artists and the nonprofits get subsidized rent in this building. The market rate right now is about $21 a square foot. We're charging about $12. We will continue to do that, whatever the market rate is. When we open the new building, we'll be sure to offer subsidized housing there. And then as you look to the right, there's an early education classroom, so we're going to offer pre-K arts education. And we will offer that both on a tuition and a scholarship basis. We want to make sure that our programming is accessible for all. And then we've got 2 flexible classrooms. Moving upstairs, beige again, are all the artist studios. To the right, at the bottom and in the middle, that's our expanded ceramics programming. That program we cannot expand enough. It's exploding. So what we are having here is not just a classroom, but also wheels that if in between classes you want to just come try and test, not part of a formal class, you just want to practice, you can rent a wheel if you don't want to invest in that equipment and have it at home. And then right above that is a mosaics room. 2 purple areas I want to point out as we move up, or was I downstairs? Let me check here. This is the 2nd floor. I forgot to point out the 2 purple areas that are next to the classrooms are 2 sensory spaces. We are seeing the need for that programming continue to grow. So if you have any sensitivities or sensory issues, we'll have both a quiet room and a high-touch room. We have one of those right now in the Banana Factory, and I can tell you that high-touch art has been used so much by children and adults alike, we have to replace it. So we think this is a program that needs to expand with the new building. 3rd floor, we've got, I was talking about the ceramics, and we've got mosaics, the artist studios. To the left, in the middle there, that purple area, this is the social media lab I was talking about in partnership with the Bethlehem Area School District. So you can make blogs there, podcasts, vlogs, all the equipment will be there, and they can create the content there. When the schools aren't using that, we can also offer that to the public as well. High-tech, high-end equipment. And then we are also designing in here a recording studio for up-and-coming musicians and bands.
Just a question, Cassie, for the partnership you have with the Bethlehem School District, is there consideration to expand that to other school districts to be able to participate in
Yes.
that?
Yeah, no question. So we are the arts and education partner for the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts. That means we're providing artist residencies in 4 counties. We are in 17 school districts right now. BASD is our home district. This is where we create and invent new programs. When we do that, then that's the hub, and then we're going to spoke out into the community. So not just school districts, but we'll come up with creative aging programs here, and then we go to Moravian. We go to other assisted living facilities to offer those programs. So this is where all that kind of creativity and magic happens, and then we want to get out into the community past the walls, because not everybody can get to the cultural center. We have to meet a number of our constituents where they are. And then to the left of that is a digital classroom. So that's going to be Photoshop, game coding, and other AI. And as its emergence in the arts, what is that going to mean? So great opportunity there. 4th floor, we've got on the classroom side on the right, printmaking, fiber arts, and jewelry all together. Beige area, again, are the artist studios. We've got some space for our offices, but I can tell you as the programming keeps expanding, that space is getting smaller and smaller. We are trying to put on a 5th floor. When my days at Air Products, when I was heading up their philanthropy and I worked with a number of nonprofits, they would build these projects, and as soon as they opened, they were out of space. We've seen that happen with school districts too. You build the high school and it's too small. So we're trying to just put the structural steel up for a 5th floor that we could either rent to another nonprofit, we could use for additional programming space, but to add that now would be so much less expensive than if we had to add a floor after that's all done and then take out all the HVAC units and stop programming and do construction again. So we want to keep this within a certain budget. If the budget gets blown as costs continue to escalate, this is something that can go away, but we're really trying to keep it so that we can use it for space in the future. The economic impact for this will be about $46 million, about 489 FTE jobs for the construction, and then on an ongoing basis, we expect an annual economic impact of about $13 million. We have raised $18.4 million to date. We need about $5 more million to break ground. We are targeting first quarter of 2025 to break ground. So that's when we're going to move out, break ground. We're doing all the civil and environmental studies right now. And then our construction folks tell us we should be open by May of 2026, but I don't know if anyone has been involved in construction projects. We're shooting for Music Fest of 2026 to allow for a little buffer in that construction timeline. The second and last project I'll tell you about is a turn and grind shop. So we're tearing down the Banana Factory. Those are 6 buildings, but we are going to rehab a 150-year-old steel building that is right behind the Visitor Center on the campus. We're going to use this for a number of things. The project is about $15 million. The first quarter of each year, we will use it for traveling large-scale exhibits. If you remember the traveling immersive Van Gogh experience that was just recently in Philadelphia, that could have been in this building. Rolling Stone has a history of concert photography. The Vietnam War has a traveling exhibit. This could be in here and run in this building between January and April of each year. And then as we get into April, we're getting into proms and nonprofit galas and weddings, and that's a great source of revenue for us in the Arts Quest Center when it's in the Music Fest Cafe, but that means we're not doing a concert. This lets us do both. So we can put the private events over here, and we can add more programming into the Arts Quest Center to further meet our mission. And then once we get into July, that will be the backstage and another opportunity for a venue for Music Fest. Right now, we build an entire backstage infrastructure for the Wind Creek stage. That means a whole kitchen, bring in trailers, showers, the whole bit, because we don't have that right now. So this building will have that, and that'll cut down on well over $200,000 in expenses just for the backstage of Music Fest each year. And then Oktoberfest, while it was down a little bit last year, needs to grow. This would be the best beer garden in the valley for Oktoberfest. And then we talked about Christkindlmarkt before and the need to expand. While we have tents and they're heated, some of the crafters and vendors we'd like to bring need true temperature control. So this lets us expand, plus also attract larger and even international crafters and vendors to the Christmas City. If I could open this tomorrow, we have over 220 days of programming that could drop into that building. It is a large open space, so I just show you this. You can see the middle. There's enormous crane runs inside that we are going to maintain. They're gorgeous. There's bays on either side, which will house the green rooms and the bathrooms and the kitchen on the north side. But that huge space lets us.
Do you know what the dimensions are of that building? I can't read the.
I know. I knew you were going to say that. Neither can I. Yeah,
I was gonna say,
it's about
big.
that big. I will say it seats at rounds about 800 people. So it's a big space, and I'm really bad at saying what that square footage is, because I could say it's 100,000 square feet. I don't know, other than we know what it could hold. And when I talked about the private event, you see that right in the middle. The image to the right is the beer garden we could have for Oktoberfest. To the top left, you see that middle space there, how open it is with the bays on either side. And then the bottom left is sort of a pre-function space as people come in there. And then for that, we think the economic impact for construction is about $26 million. Right now, that building doesn't generate any economic impact. It's just used for storage. So that would be a brand new economic impact source of just under $13 million. We need about $6.5 million to break ground for that. The cultural center is our first priority. We absolutely need it because those buildings are falling down. The turn and grind, while we need it because we're actually out of dates on the campus, we have people still approaching us to do weekend programming. We don't have them. We don't have anything. While we need it, it's a little end need. And then we just have to figure out something to do with everything that is stuffed into that building serving as storage right now. But that's a problem to have in the future.
Quick question. With regard to the turn and grind shop, you said that you've had situations where you want concerts at the Arts Quest facility and you just wouldn't be able to hold events. This is a great place to hold events. Is
Right.
there any estimation on how much revenue perhaps you have lost over the years in terms of not being able to provide for individuals who want to utilize this space here?
That's a great question. I don't think we have that. It would be easy for us to calculate because we know we do about 60 weddings a year in the Arts Quest Center. And that is, again, wonderful revenue. It's guaranteed. You know who's showing up. It isn't like a concert where you don't know of the 700 tickets who's going to buy a soda or who's going to order. You don't know that, but you know that at weddings. You know that at galas. So we could easily calculate we're projecting between 80 and 90 events in the turn and grind that would move from the Arts Quest Center.
Okay.
And then that would allow us to do 80 or 90 more concerts.
Okay, thank you.
Great question. So I want to be respectful of your time, but that is a little look back at what happened in 2023 and a look ahead to what we're working on. That turn and grind, as I mentioned, we're going to wait more until we get one or two funders that closes that gap. We're not going to do a traditional capital campaign like we are for the new cultural center, so we're not going to be asking people twice. So when that comes along, great. If it's in a couple of weeks, if it's in a year or two, that'll happen. But the focus is to get the cultural center under construction and open in '26.
Did you say a hopeful date, though, for the turn and grind, when you would hope to start?
We are in talks now, and there's certainly a possibility that that could start very soon,
2024 is very soon, or 2025?
2025. I don't want my staff to hear that, because if we're under construction, 2 projects, I might not be able to go to work tomorrow. So I think what's tricky about the turn and grind is we're going to have to stage that, because we got to figure out what's the best time to start, how long is it going to take, because it's got to stop during Oktoberfest and Music Fest and Christkindl Mart. So what does that mean when you start versus when you finish? The Banana Factory, we're just going to vacate, tear down, and you just do construction until you're done. So the turn and grind's a little trickier.
Understood.
Cassie, you mentioned vacating the cultural center so you can start the process, but I assume you're relocating, are they still going to have access to services?
Yes.
Just in a
Yes.
location, could you say a little bit about that?
Sure, it's a jigsaw puzzle. When we built Steel Stacks, we were all located at the Banana Factory, so no one had to move anywhere, and this is completely different. So we are looking to continue running all camps and classes. We're looking at locations in both Bethlehem and Allentown. We've got feelers out to everybody. We are looking actually to build another glass studio off-site so that that can continue to run during construction. So programming is our emphasis. We're also in talks to relocate staff, but, you know, where everyone can work remotely, but we do have, certainly if there's anything good right now, there's some empty office space around, so we've got a lot of good friends and supporters that are giving us some opportunities there. Hardest thing to find is the artist space, and we have told them, we've given them a 2-year lead time. The problem with finding them space is, as I mentioned before, we offer it in a subsidized fashion. They're paying us, but it's below market value, and in this market, you're not gonna get a developer to give 15,000 square feet at a subsidized rate. They don't have to, and they don't need to. So the best we can do is to give artists as much time. We're also telling them, as we talk to sponsors, colleges, universities, if you have space, large space you are not utilizing, here are the dimensions that we would need for an artist studio. So we have the feelers out. I just didn't want to overpromise and say we could get something for the artists we couldn't.
And just to follow up then, with your ArtsQuest relationship with Wind Creek. Right, you know, they're doing some development, they've done some expansion and so on and so forth. How's that relationship?
I would categorize our relationship with Wind Creek as one of our strongest. From the day that property is opened, they have worked with us hand in glove. They have been great friends. They do a lot of the snow removal. Their security is going around our campus all the time. We have been lockstep with each other that anything we do that's new is potentially bringing people to their property, and anything new they're doing, even with a hotel, which competes with us. The event center competes with us. But you're silly if you think you're not gonna, if you're gonna, you know, have a business or a nonprofit and never have competition. How do you work together so everybody wins there? So you know, top 5 most important relationships we have, and it's been that way from the time they opened.
Really quick, just a couple comments. First and foremost, I want to say thank you for paying artists. I know it sounds ridiculous to say, and I know it sounds ridiculous to thank somebody for paying artists, but we really do live in a culture where, whether it's businesses, corporations, even nonprofits, a lot of people don't like to pay artists. And I've been around the artist community for quite some time, you know, whether it's myself personally or a lot of folks that I know within our community. And I just wanted to give you all kudos for
Appreciate that.
paying artists. And secondly, if you need anybody to run a seminar with regard to how to do
Yes.
podcasting,
Yes.
close to 11 years doing one here, I can certainly help out, and I would love to in the future.
And we're lucky with that, with so many volunteers and, of course, committee members. And one of the things we will look at with a lot of the new programming in the Cultural Center is way beyond our staff. Who has expertise in the areas that
Right.
wants to come in and do that? So expect a phone call for that.
Sounds good.
And we're hoping that we can activate the Cultural Center as much as we activate Steel Stacks. That's the goal, is to get as many people coming down there and circulating South Side. But yeah, we're going to be recruiting a lot of folks to help us with that programming. Absolutely.
Thanks.
Well, thank you again for your attention, and most grateful for Northampton County's continued support. Thank you very, very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, that's, what? Yeah, that's it. Adjournment. I thought you were gonna.